Not that long ago, the idea of netbooks coming back seemed like a novelty at best. Then all of a sudden, they were everywhere. The difference is, this time they're not the flimsy, underpowered toys they used to be. The OneMix 3S has the specs of what you'd expect to see in a mid-range laptop, only crammed into a much smaller chassis. The question is, do the features and portability justify the high price tag? The OneMix 3S comes in a few different variations. Our review unit, which appears to be the base model, features an Intel Core M3 8100Y processor with UHD 615 integrated graphics. It has a hefty 16 gigs of RAM and a 512GB NVMe SSD for storage. That is certainly nothing to sneeze at. Now, unfortunately, it ships with Windows 10 Home instead of Pro, but I guess that's somewhat understandable. As you can likely tell by, well, watching this video, this is a tiny computer. Because of the overall small dimensions, it happens to look a little on the chunky side, but compared to my MacBook Pro, it's actually just as thin. Our review unit came in a sleek black finish that was stunning out of the box. Now you noticed I said was, not is, and that's because this is a bit of a fingerprint magnet. After just a few minutes out of the box, it didn't look nearly as sleek as it did at first. Fortunately, a quick wipe with a microfiber cloth was all it took to get it back to its original look. The netbooks of old were often flimsy, but this is anything but. The OneMix 3S is machined from solid aluminum, giving it a very solid feel. This extends to the netbook as a whole, especially the hinges for the screen, which have been the downfall of many a laptop. Given the small size, this is among the most powerful portable computers you'll find. It won't quite fit in your pocket as advertised, but it'll fit into a backpack or a purse without any sort of issues. The screen is almost overkill with a resolution of 2560 by 1600 packed into an 8.4-inch screen size. That's close to the resolution of a Surface Pro, but in a much smaller screen size. This results in an ultra-crisp pixel density of 358 pixels per inch. That said, the way the display handles color isn't nearly as impressive as its resolution. Colors are a little muted and washed out when compared to the screens on other gadgets I had handy. Granted, I had to look to notice, but it was definitely easily noticeable. Instead of the usual 60 Hz refresh rate, the OneMix 3S has a refresh rate of 55 Hz. This causes the strobing effect you can see in this video, as 60 frames per second and a 55 Hz refresh rate just don't match up. Even after I was done shooting, I could swear I noticed a vague strobing effect when I was looking at the screen for too long. Granted, this could have just been in my head, but it's worth keeping in mind if you've found you're sensitive to that sort of thing in the past. As with any computer like this, the keyboard is small. There's no getting around that. Because of the small size, the layout of the keyboard has to be changed as well. This is the actual problem with most of these netbooks. If a company somehow manages to fit a standard keyboard layout into this ultra-compact size, they'll deserve some sort of award. Until then, it's a matter of figuring out which sacrifices you can live with and which you can't. With the OneMix 3S, there are a few specific problems. The first and most common is the tiny spacebar. For frequent users of the Tab key, it's even worse as this key has been relocated to the function keys. The quote keys are down to the right of the spacebar as well, which can be less than convenient. One plus of the tiny keyboard is that it is backlit. Strangely though, the backlight is aggressive about turning off. This is likely in the name of saving battery life, but if you frequently type in a dark room, this will get annoying and fast. While older netbooks usually still included a touchpad, these are hard to find on modern netbooks. In the case of the OneMix 3S, it uses an infrared induction mouse. We've seen these before, and they're usable. They're not ideal, not by a long shot, but they are usable, at least usually. The problem in the case of the OneMix 3S is the location. On older OneMix models and similar netbook-style computers like the Chewy MiniBook 8 we've previously reviewed, the mouse is located in the middle of the spacebar, similar to where a ThinkPad-style track point would be. Here it's below the spacebar and in between the left and right mouse buttons, making it unwieldy to use. As I and plenty of other people have said before, an actual just rubber track point would probably be a lot easier to use. This could simply be familiarity on my part, but the induction mouse would be maddening if that was your only option for navigating the OS. Fortunately, the screen on the OneMix 3S is a touchscreen, which alleviates almost all of the mouse-related issues. Even better, our review unit shipped with a stylus, which made selecting tiny user interface elements possible. The stylus seems to be included with the OneMix 3S out of the box, and if it isn't, it definitely should be. The touchscreen and stylus allow the OneMix 3S to pull double duty as a Windows 10 tablet. It's not going to give Microsoft Surface Pro devices a run for their money, but it works quite well in tablet mode. As you might already suspect from the video so far, the OneMix 3S isn't a toy. It's a serious computer that just happens to be ultra portable. While I did notice limitations from the screen size and the keyboard, I never felt like the hardware itself was slowing me down. Thermal issues can pop up on smaller form factor computers like this, so you may be glad to know the fans are pretty aggressive. They don't get overly loud, but they tend to kick in as soon as the computer starts to work hard at all. This prevents it from having to slow down to keep from heating up. One area where the OneMix 3 excelled was Wi-Fi speed. Unlike the OneMix 2S, which we found to be hampered by problematic Wi-Fi, I never noticed any issues using Wi-Fi with the OneMix 3S. This netbook sports an 8,600 mAh battery, bigger than the 6,500 mAh battery in the OneMix 2S. Of course, this model has a bigger screen than that model, but still battery life is improved. I averaged around 5 to 6 hours on a charge while I was testing the OneMix 3S, though this would vary depending on how hard I was pushing the hardware. The good news is that the OneMix 3S doesn't seem to sip much power when the lid is shut, so you don't need to worry about shutting it down to save power. Like other modern netbooks, this model uses USB-C for charging. It only has a single USB-C port, which can be problematic, but like other similar computers, you can always get around this by using a dongle. How long it takes to charge will vary based on the charger you're using. With the included 12-volt 2.5 amp charger, charge time was around 2 to 3 hours. With some other modern netbooks, I've noticed that while the specs look good on paper, actually using them still feels slow. That isn't the case with the OneMix 3S. Now, there are some exceptions like editing video, but for the most part, I feel like I could get through my workday using this computer with little to no problem, at least assuming I eventually got used to the keyboard. If you're just looking for a moderately powerful laptop, the OneMix 3S shouldn't be at the top of your list. If portability is your first concern, with power coming in a close second, then the OneMix 3S is absolutely worth looking at. The sheer amount of RAM alone will be very useful when it comes to everyday computing tasks. The 3S, configured as we reviewed it, costs between $900 and $1,000. Now that certainly isn't cheap, and that will buy you a lot more in a standard size laptop than it will in one this size. That said, if you crave portability but can't sacrifice the power, you could certainly do a lot worse than the OneMix 3S. If you want to get more in depth on specs and benchmarks and things like that, you might want to read the article version of this review, which you can find over at the Make Use Of website. While you're there, you can enter a giveaway to win this computer for yourself. Now, if all you care about is the giveaway, just head over to makeuseof.com/giveaways. When you get to the part about a video bonus question, enter "Netbooks are back," all one word. Thank you to One-Netbook for supplying this for us to review. And thanks, of course, to you for watching.